Radio Forest Podcast.
Hey, Forrest, it's Steve Shippy calling in.
What's happening, man? How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Michigan Hell House, Sunday, Travel Channel, Shoc Docs. Dude, this is quite the story.
It's a story unlike any other, I can tell you that much.
Before we get into the beginning of it, I got to jump to the middle. You hear a voice that says that you're going to die?
Yes. Yeah. We were outside the house. We were investigating on the side of the house, and I had seen something in the window. We knew that none of the crew, nobody was in the house. It kind of was a white, translucent figure that went through the back of the room. So I approached the window, and I took a digital recorder, and I placed it on the windowsill, and I asked a few questions. When I played it back, I was standing there. Cindy and I both had our ear to the recorder, and there was a female voice that said, "You're all going to die." This female voice, it was very creepy. I mean, first of all, of course, the words are creepy in itself, but just the tone of it, and you just couldn't really decipher, was it talking to us? Was it, something that was directed toward the family from what they were experiencing? Because they did capture voices in that house that were threatening to kill them. That's part of the story. So a lot of things go through your mind. Of course, the entire crew wasn't very pleased to hear such a recording.
Absolutely. Steve Shippy is a paranormal investigator. Sunday on the Discovery Channel, Shoc Docs, the Michigan Hell House. Now, Steve, give a brief overview. We've got a house that was built. This isn't something from like the 1800s. This is built in like the 50s or the 60s, but then they're hearing knocking. There's sporadic fires jumping up, but you've got the police, you've got the local airport involved, you've got the gas company.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, as you said, the family built the house in 1951. Harold Pomeranian, his father lived next door. They owned this property for over 100 years. It was in their family. The father gave the son some land to build his house on, start a family. He did. They lived in the house for 20 years without any incident. One night that all changes. Middle of the night, they hear glass smashing. They get up, they look. The living room window is blown out. They call the police. They thought maybe it was some vandals. They take a report. The next day, same time at night, pounding starts happening on the side of the house. Police come back, and this continues to the point where the pounding then turns into what is referred to as explosions. The police are witnessing it. They're hearing it. They're feeling the concussions. They're seeing the damage. Now they're doing stakeouts. Polygraphs are involved. As you said, the FAA came out because they thought, okay, well, maybe all these explosions could be explained by the radar system. Sure enough, that was ruled out. These officers did everything imaginable to try to help his family and figure out what was happening, to no avail. Ultimately, they brought out a team from Duke University to come study the phenomenon, and they thought it was a poltergeist.
There's different types of quote-unquote hauntings or paranormal activity. Things can attach to an object or a person, or it could be the land. But this, like you said, like 20 years after they're living there. So, and then if there's no one in the house now, and then you come back and hear that voice, is it the house itself, or do you have any idea?
I definitely do. I mean, we went into this case to examine basically two theories that were narrowed down. The professionals that came out from Duke University believed it to be a poltergeist. Now, the family and all the locals believed it to be a curse through the work of witchcraft by a neighbor who had a grievance with the family and referred to themselves as an ordained witch. And those were the two theories that we set out to figure out which one is actually the case.
Didn't something happen when you talked to the family members? Current time, wasn't there again like another like loud bang or something that couldn't be explained? Do you think it might have followed the family?
Yeah. I'm not even sure how you know that. I think I've only maybe told one person that. But yes, that did happen. That particular instance didn't make the documentary, but while I was interviewing the brothers, the surviving members of the original family, there were two loud, distinct bang, bang sounds, maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet from where we were seated at the table. There's a handful of people in the room. Nobody's moving. Everyone's seated. The cameraman's got a camera in his hand. I mean, it's impossible that anybody there could have done that. And this is happening while we're talking about the pounding that used to happen at the house. So I believe right away that was something letting us know that it was still active, and it was very well aware that we reopened the case.
It's not just the rumbling and the window breaking, but also fires started, so this is extremely dangerous. How did it affect the emotional well-being of the mother, the father, and the two sons? Like, that had to affect them, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It put them through a living hell. I mean, it really did. It tormented them. This pounding would happen all day, all night, voices threatening them. There was never a moment of peace. Their sleep was disrupted. As a matter of fact, both of the sons have gone on record many times saying that they believe that the early demise of their parents, who both passed away very close to each other only a few years after they moved out of that house, they believe it was from all the stress that was endured living through this year of hell.
Now, talking to the brothers, did you feel any connection? Because I know that you've had a similar experience in your childhood that kind of got you into this field, or at least interested in other things that might be out there. Did you feel a kinship with like the one brother that was like 5 when this stuff was going on? Is there some similarities that you had gone through and questions you had as a kid?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely, I felt a lot of rapport with them through their experiences. And then, I've been investigating this particular case for 8 years to the point where these guys have basically become like family to me. I mean, we even see each other on holidays and things of that nature. And, I don't know. I've never felt closer to a case or more responsible for a case in my life than this one. And as a matter of fact, I'm the only one to ever tell this story, which is the craziest thing. I mean, it was kept under wraps so much that no one's ever even heard of this outside of me bringing it forward. And you would think a case like this would have been, the next Amityville blockbuster. And if it wasn't suppressed, it certainly would have been.
Do you think the voices were directed specifically at people, or do you think it's, and correct the terminology if I've got it wrong, it's like when it's stuck in like a time loop and it's just happening whether someone's there or not, or do you think this is more personally directed?
The type of haunting that you're referencing is what they call a residual haunting. Now, I mean, it's possible, but at the same time, seeing something in that window and then approaching the window and then putting the recorder there as a result of seeing something and then getting that response, I think it was something intelligent. And I think it was trying to scare us away from there as to not figure out or try to end this haunting.
Other than the claim of the witchcraft, is there any other like dark histories with this land, with this property? Does it go back to Native American times, or does it go back to the early 1800s or anything like that? Because the family's been there for like over 100 years, right? The family name.
Yeah, absolutely. Now there were different Indian battles that did take place, close to in proximity to this area, and the road that the house is on, Dice Road, is a very well-known folklore in our area. There's a lot of hauntings per capita on this lone stretch of country road. But, this particular case, the fact that it started in one night out of nowhere after 20 years of peace and tranquility, and it happened when this neighbor came to the house and had a few cross words with the owners, is very suspicious.
What's Cindy's sort of job in all of this? What's her area of expertise, and what did she come up with?
So Cindy Keza is a world-renowned psychic medium. She joined me in the case to use her gifts to try to walk through the property, investigate with me, tell me what she's sensing, what she's picking up on, giving us that glimpse into what has happened there and what's currently happening there that our meters and cameras can't detect.
Do you feel like, out of all the different cases that you've studied and been through and seen and recorded and listened back to, do you think that people can come back after they pass or something be left over from them? Do you think this is a different sort of phenomenon? You're like, I don't know if these things were ever alive, but they're here now, or do you think it's maybe a combination of those things?
I think it's definitely both. I certainly believe that there are human spirits, for whatever reason, that can remain here and cause a haunting, if you will. And I also believe that there are darker spirits that were never human that can affect the living as well.
How does this story end? Like, what happens? The house is still standing, right? They didn't like bulldoze it down. The family moved. Is it vacant, or do you just continue to investigate and try to figure out what's going on? Like, does this ever close?
So the family that currently resides in the house actually purchased it from the original family 40-some years ago. It's only ever changed hands one time. Now, the family still has a lot of activity take place, but obviously nothing compared to the original family, and I believe it's because it was assigned and targeting that particular family. And I think what they experience now are more the after effects of what's there. But as soon as we brought the original family back to the house, it sure enough started really picking up, and that kind of gives more credence to the fact that it has something to do with being attached to them.
So the family in there now, they do have some things happening, though. What are they, minor things? What kind of stuff are they experiencing?
Cold spots. They'll see bizarre flashes of light. The daughters in the home have seen a white apparition peeking in the windows. Things will come up missing, strange sounds.
Aren't there other places to live? Like, could you, in your experience, in your field, could you move into that house and just kind of live with that and be like, this house has got some things, and I might see an apparition peeking through the window? I would never be able to sleep well. And I feel like over time, that would be taxing on my health, my emotional well-being. Could you handle that? Could you deal with it?
Well, yeah, I guess I kind of deal with it now. Me personally, yeah, to a degree, there's certain things I guess I could live with, but obviously the original family, what they were living through, I mean, it's impossible. I don't even know how they had the strength and courage to live there with fires and everything else that took place. It's just unbelievable.
Are you concerned at all about the field of work that you're in, that you open yourself up to more experiences? It goes back, have you ever used an Ouija board, and that can, change maybe the way things see you, interact you, or attach to you? Are you worried that you're so immersed in this that you're going to come across something that it's like, you know what? Now I'm after Steve.
Well, I mean, I think that's always a possibility. I mean, when you're trying to, get a glimpse of the other side sees you. So I think that's, kind of the way that it is, I guess, if you want to be in this line of work. But I think what keeps people in this line of work, or I would like to think the majority of us, if you're helping people solve their problems, or at least attempting to help solve the problems for them and making sure that they're not dealing with this alone, I guess that's kind of just the price you pay. I guess I don't live in fear of it. It's certainly something that could happen, but if it does, there are things you can do, just like, there are things we can do for the client.
At what point did things change in the investigation of this house? Because you talked about the local police were involved, the state police were involved, the gas company came out. Police did like stakeouts, like, all right, if someone's terrorizing this family, we're going to catch them, we're going to hide in the woods. When it starts knocking, we'll ambush them, but they never find anything. So it keeps moving through all these different organizations. At what point do they start to go, this is something weird's happened? Was it the fires? Was it just a combination of things? Would each department think it's creepy and hand it off?
It's funny, when you bring up that stakeout that you're referencing, that was actually on October 31st, Halloween night, 1974. When they're outside, the captain of the sheriff's department is on the inside of the house. The family doesn't know that all these cops are surrounding and watching the house. The captain starts hearing the pounding taking place. He gets on the radio. He's yelling at the other officers, it's happening, close in, close in. They're thinking there's a suspect outside. The cops outside don't hear anything, but yet when the chief of police is yelling through the radio, they can hear the pounding on the other end of the walkie-talkie. Now, how crazy is that? It started with the local sheriff's department. They exhausted all resources. They did everything that they possibly could. Then it went further to the state police. Then it went to high-ranking departments of the state police, including, the fire marshal and everything else. And ultimately, a year of investigation and every tactic known to man, even including polygraphs that cleared the family, they could not figure it out. And ultimately, they brought out a team from Duke University, a parapsychology team, to try to come out and study the phenomenon, because at that point, they had to rule it as something supernatural.
This is crazy. Such a crazy story. It's Shoc Docs coming up Sunday at 9, Michigan Hell House. Steve Shippy, thanks for the call, man, and can't wait to see the final show.
Okay, thank you so much.